Good morning and welcome to KCPS Homeroom. I'm Justin Robinson, and today is for 5th and 6th grade students. We will start off with English, then math, science, African American history, and finally Chinese. Hope you enjoyed today's class. Let's get ready to learn with Miss Zeke in English.
Good morning, Kansas City. My name is Mrs. Zeke. I'm the Southeast High School English teacher, and we are here today to talk about English. Today, we're going to go over a little bit about what we talked about last week concerning ancient China. You took some notes over the week and comparing what you know about American history to the Chinese history we learned last week. And then we're going to build on this idea by applying an English standard that's common from 5th and 6th grade into high school, how to summarize the main idea of a passage. And we're going to do this by looking at an article about ancient China. First, I want to talk about some tips and tricks for finding the main idea. I'm sure this is something you have been practicing in all of your English classes over the course of the past few years. But as you develop your reading habits, it can be cumbersome to retain all that information and then spit out one main idea. So here are some tips and tricks to help you stay focused in that. First of all, it's always good to look at what the Missouri Standard states. So for the 6th grade, and there's an equivalent for 5th, it's asking for you to explain the central or main ideas of a text and cite evidence of its development. Summarize the text. The key word in the standard and the key word that you should think of when asked to find the main idea is summary. What sentence or two could you state that summarizes a passage you've just read? So main idea equals summary. It's always good to read a passage and then reread it. Sometimes when you are reading, you might gloss over details or realize you've gone through a whole page and haven't retained an ounce of what you've read. That's okay. Take the extra minute to reread the passage. Then state the main idea out loud, whether it's simply to yourself, your parents, or a classmate. State what you think is the main idea of the passage out loud first before you write it down in a well thought out sentence. We are going to try that today with a passage around some more information about ancient China. So last week we really focused on the development of the Shang and Zhou dynasties. Today we're going to read a little bit more about what happened before those two dynasties. Get a brief introduction to the Great Wall of China, and then also why some of the things that happen in China are so mysterious because of the lack of literature surrounding them. So let's give this a try. I'm going to read the passage for you first, and then we'll give you some time to reread the passage as one of our tips and tricks. Follow along with me. The history of ancient China is shrouded in mystery. Around 1700 BC, a dynasty named Shang was founded in China. After Shang dynasty, Chu dynasty ruled over China. During the reign of the Chu dynasty, a stable administration was established in China. Sai Wangti, the great ruler of the dynasty, built a great wall of China in order to protect the country from foreign invasion. Of course, he ordered to burn all the books in China except those books concerning agriculture, medicine, and astrology in order to create a new literature in China. As a result, many historical facts concerning ancient China could not be brought to light. After the Chu dynasty, rulers of Han, Tang, Shang, and Zhou dynasties ruled over China. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to reread the passage. Ten, 5. All right. After rereading the passage, Can you come up with the main idea? Another tip and trick, say it out loud to someone around you. What is the main idea of this passage? All right, let's take a look. If you said something like, China has a very mysterious history, or China has had a lot of rulers in its history, or China has had many events happen over the course of the history, then you are right. There are a lot of details in those two small passages about the rulers and their names and events that happened, but the main idea is captured by one of those three sentences. Here's a bonus for you for today. Oftentimes, the main idea comes in the first sentence or two of a passage. Let's take a look and see if that's true. The history of ancient China is shrouded in mystery. It is right there for us. So a bonus tip and trick for you today is that oftentimes it's in the first sentence of a passage. Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you next week. My name is Mrs. Zeke, and we'll see you then.
Hi, my name is John Hatch, and this is a math 5th, 6th grade lesson on generating equivalent ratios. And what you need for this lesson is a pencil and either a piece of paper, or especially if you have a notebook that you can keep your notes in. Our standard for today is RPA3A. Create tables of equivalent ratios. Find missing values in the tables and plot the pairs of values on the Cartesian coordinate plane. So to review, a ratio is a comparison of two numbers, values, quantities. There are three ways to write ratios. The first is word form, and this says 4:3. The next is in colon form, and it's written 4:3. And then it's fraction form, written 4/3. But all three ways are stated as 4:3. And here we have a picture that shows 4 salads and 3 eggs. So it would be that 3 eggs are going to be distributed over the 4 salads. And we have a ratio there of 4:3. Now, for our lesson today, generating equivalent ratios, we have the first example that says for every 16 basketball players in Crystal County schools, there are 48 soccer players. If the ratio remains constant and there are 64 basketball players, how many soccer players are there? Well, one way to do it is to make a table with equivalent ratios. And so here we take 16, and it's written as a fraction, 16/48, and we multiply both of those numbers times 2. So when you do this work, you have to multiply both numbers by the same. So 16 times 2 is 32, and 48 times 2 is 96. To find another one, the next one up, 16 is multiplied times 3, and you get 48. And 48 times 3 is 144. Well, when we get to 16/48 times 4, we get 64/192. And so that gives us the answer that there are 192 soccer players when there are 64 basketball players. Another way is to use multiplication. Multiply both numbers, both terms, by the same non-zero number. So 16 times 4 gives you 64 basketball players. 48 times 4 gives you 192 soccer players. And both those we multiplied by 4. So again, there are 192 soccer players when there are 64 basketball players. Let's look at this second example. This is using division to find equivalent ratios. Sarah made baskets on some of her shots in a basketball game. If she continues to make baskets at the same rate, how many baskets will Sarah make in her next 6 shots? And it shows that Sarah took 18 shots and made 12 baskets. So we're going to divide, and on this one, 18 divided by 2 gives us 9, and 12 divided by 2 gives us 6. Well, when we divide by 3, 18 divided by 3 is 6, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So Sarah will make 4 baskets in her next 6 shots. Another way to use it is using division, but going 18 divided by 3. And with this, we're finding the greatest factor that can go into both those numbers. And 18 divided by 3 is 6. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. So you're dividing them both by the same number. And we come up with that Sarah will make 4 baskets in her next 6 shots. All right, for our third example, this is finding equivalent ratios for 9 to 12. And which of these will work? 3 to 4, 2 to 3, 6 to 9, and 12 to 16. Well, 9 to 12, I know that 3 goes into both of those. So we can divide those by 3 to get the fraction down to its smallest. And so 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So we have 3/4. Once you get it down to 3/4, now you can multiply up to be able to find equivalent ratios. 3 times 2 is 6, and 4 times 2 is 8. Well, let's multiply times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 3 is 12. We can then multiply times 4. 3 times 4 is 12, and 4 times 4 is 16. So we can see that by using this table right here, the ratios 3/4, or 3 to 4, 12 to 16 are equivalent to 9 to 12. What two operations are used to find equivalent ratios? We use multiplication and division to find equivalent ratios. Well, let's try a few together. Over on the side here, we have 4 apples and 5 oranges. In the yellow, it says complete the table using multiplication to find ratios equivalent to 4 to 5. So we can multiply times 2. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 2 is 10. We can multiply by 3. 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times 3 is 15. And we can multiply times 4. And there we see the pictures show us that there are 16 apples and 20 oranges. So we have 8 to 10, 12 to 15, and 16 to 20. All are equivalent to 4 to 5. Next one, we are going to find what ratios are equivalent to 40 to 28. And we know that there are some numbers that are smaller, that are factors that can go into 40 and 28. So we can write out the factors. I left out 1 because, well, one's not going to help us. So we have 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, and 5 times 8. When we find the factors of 28, we find 1 times 28, 2 times 14, and 4 times 7. The 2 that are in there for both of them are 2 and 4. So 40 can be divided by 2, and you get 20. 28 can be divided by 2, and you get 14. We have 40 divided by 4, the other factor, and we get 10. 28 can be divided by 4, and we get 7. So we found equivalent ratios for 40 to 28. Let's try this one. Complete the table to find ratios equivalent to 12 to 16. Again, we write out factors for 12. Those would be 1 times 12, but we don't really need the 1, so I didn't put it there. 2 times 6 and 3 times 4. For 16, we would have 1 times 16, 2 times 8, and 4 times 4. So the ones that come up there are 4 and 2. So 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 16 divided by 4 is 4. So equivalent ratios are 3 to 4, and 6 to 8 are equivalent to 12 to 16. Let's give you some time to write some out for your own. We have number 1, 2 to 3, number 2, 6 to 8, number 3, 15 to 10. Go ahead and write these out for yourself. So below we have 2 cars that are green and 3 that are purple. When we find equivalent ratios, we can multiply. So we have 4 to 6 being equivalent, and when we multiply times 3, we get 6 to 9. Let's go check out the second one. We're trying to find out what is equivalent to 6 to 8. Well, first we can divide. So we divide by 2 and we get 3 to 4. And then we can multiply that times 3 and get 3 to 4 to equal 9 to 12. Let's look at our last example, 15 to 10. On this one, we can divide. And so when we find the factors, we find that 5 goes into both of those. And we have 3 to 2. And now we can multiply that. 3 to 2 times 2 is 6 to 4. So in review, a ratio is a comparison of two numbers, values or quantities. There are 3 ways to write those: in word form, colon form, or fraction form. And to generate equivalent ratios, you multiply or divide by the same number to get equivalent ratios. This concludes our lesson for 5th, 6th grade math on generating equivalent ratios. It has been a pleasure to have you in class today. Don't forget to do the homework, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Hello everyone, this is Ms. Shiva with Kansas City Public Schools, and this is science video for 5th and 6th grade. And I'm so excited that you have joined me today, and I cannot wait to see what we will learn together.
Today we're going to learn about ecosystem. After this video, you'll know what is an ecosystem, what are different types of ecosystems, and also you will be able to create your very own ecosystem using materials around you.
Hello scientists, let's go ahead and talk about ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? Ecosystem is an environment where living and non-living things interact with each other. It can include thousands of different species or types of organisms. You may wonder what would be some examples of living and non-living things. Living things are animals and plants interact with non-living things. All right, what would be example of non-living things? The major part of an ecosystem: soil, water, air, light, and temperature. Those all examples of non-living things. Soil is a critical part of an ecosystem. It provides important nutrients for the plants. It helps anchor the plants to keep them in place. Soils absorbs and holds the water for plants and animals to use, and it provides a home for a lot of living organisms. Water. Without water, there would be no life. Water is a large percentage of the cells that make up all living organisms. Water is also used by plants to carry and distribute the nutrients they need to survive. What about atmosphere? The atmosphere provides oxygen and carbon dioxide for plants and animals in an ecosystem. The atmosphere is also part of the water cycle. Without the complex interaction and elements in the atmosphere, there would be no life at all. The heat and light from the sun are the critical parts of an ecosystem. The sun's heat helps water evaporate and return to atmosphere, where it's recycled back into water. The heat also keeps plants and animals warm. The light from the sun is necessary for photosynthesis so that plants have the energy they need to make a food. All right, all these living and non-living things together make up special place called an ecosystem. Ecosystems have no particular size. An ecosystem can be as big as a desert or as small as a tree. Size does not matter. As long as it is an environment with living and non-living things, interact with each other, this is an ecosystem.
For example, this backyard is an ecosystem. It is small, but it is an environment where living and non-living things interact with each other.
There are two types of ecosystems: terrestrial ecosystems, which include forest ecosystems, grassland, tundra, and desert, and aquatic ecosystems, including freshwater ecosystem and marine ecosystem. Here's some examples of terrestrial ecosystems. Desert ecosystem. This ecosystem receives very little rain. The climate there is very dry. That's make a desert ecosystem so unique. The animals and plants in the desert ecosystem have adapted to survive without standing water and with little rain. The largest dry and hot desert in the world is the Sahara Desert in northern Africa. The next ecosystem we're going to talk about is a tropical rainforest ecosystem. Tropical rainforests are very different from desert ecosystem. Tropical rainforest gets a lot of rain all year long and the soil is moist. Since there are a lot of rain, tropical rainforest plants and animals don't need to store water because water is all around them. Tropical rainforest is very warm all year long. The plants and animals thrive in a warm temperature. The rainforests are very important for our planet. They're producing around 40% of the world oxygen. The largest tropical rainforest is located in South America. Next, we're going to talk about temperate deciduous forest ecosystem. Unlike the tropical rainforest, temperate deciduous forests have big temperature changes throughout the year as the seasons change. The temperate deciduous forest ecosystem is characterized by its leaf-shading trees and its seasons. The 4 seasons are easily recognizable and each lasts about 3 months. Their leaves change color with the season and eventually fall to the ground during winter. Temperate deciduous forests located around the world, including Eastern North America, Europe, Eastern China, Japan, Southeast Australia, and New Zealand. Okay, guys, we learned a lot about ecosystem, different types of ecosystems. Now, our turn to create our own ecosystem in a glass container. Let's get started. For your ecosystem project, you will need clear container with a lid, rocks, soil, seeds or some plants, water, and sunny window. Actually, for my project, I found materials around me from my household. So you see pictures of my plants, and I collected some dirt outside and rocks, and I also had empty jars.
Congratulations, guys! We have created our own ecosystem. Make sure that your ecosystem is closed. So in this case, your ecosystem will be able to recycle water through process of evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. So you also will be able to observe a water cycle. And look, guys, our ecosystem is already working. Look at this condensation.
That was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed as well. Try to create your own ecosystem using materials around your house, and I will see you next week.
Good day, scholars. Professor Reese here with another segment on African American history. This segment is about our history before slavery, and it speaks to our African kings, queens, warriors, and empires. The kings started ruling their kingdoms around 200 BC, and with the queens, it was around 1400 BC. African history is the oldest history in the world, from Kemet to the present. These great leaders have shaped Africa and world history. So here we go. Our rich history before slavery. We'll start with our African kings, and the only reason we're going to start with them is because of the alphabet, K before Q. All right, here we go. Our first king, who we talked a little bit about last time, is Mansa Musa. We talked about Mansa and the fact that he was the wealthiest man in the world. Well, he was also a king. Mansa Musa was born in the year 1280, and he ruled for a period of 25 years between 1307 and 1332. Mansa Musa established Sankore University, the oldest learning institution in the world, in the city of Timbuktu. His empire extended over 400 cities. He owned several cities: Mali, Niger, Senegal, the Ivory Coast, as well as Guinea and Guinea-Bissau, to name a few. The source of his wealth was predominantly gold, salt, ivory. In order to build the mosque in Timbuktu, he recruited some of the most known architects in Africa. Now, we've picked these particular kings out because they seem to have contributed the most to some of the countries that they ruled. With Mansa Musa, he actually, very, very wise king in that he was a tradesman. I'm hoping you can see this. So since his area of Mali was very rich in salt and gold, he started trading in all of these regions that are marked in red. The Sahara, of course, he was Timbuktu, Tahassa, all of these areas in red is where he traded, making himself even richer. Okay, we talked a little bit about this last week too. We said that Africa is full of resources. Here's the continent of Africa, and as you can see, all of the resources have been listed in the different regions of the continent. King number 2, Haile Selassie. He was born June 23rd, 1892 in Ethiopia. He ruled between 1930 and 1974. So he's a king that was more recent than Mansa Musa. During that time, he created an organization called African Unity, which today is called the African Union. Italians attempted to colonize Ethiopia several times and unleashed chemical warfare on airplanes and killed hundreds of thousands of Ethiopians. While defending his country at the League of Nations, Haile Selassie stated that he declared in the face of the whole world that the emperor, the government, and the people of Ethiopia will not bow down before force. Okay, king number 3, King Urier. He was the king of Benin For 33 years, he ruled from 1440 to 1473. The name Uware means the trouble has ceased. He ruled his empire with a wise hand. He was very brave, according to Nigerian oral tradition. He was a skillful doctor and warrior that helped expand the Benin Empire. Uware also encouraged art and music, dancing, and sculpting. One of the reasons Uware, or Oba Uware, made our top 3 list is because he was big on expansion. He took 102 cities and expanded it and brought it under his reign. And the word Oba means king. Oba Uware. Okay, next up, we have our queens of Africa. Queens. Look how majestic they look. Our first queen, and one of my favorites, is Queen Amina. She was also known as a warrior queen. She was born during the year 1533. She had royalty in her through the Hausa Kingdom and reigned as the leader from 1576 to 1610. She gained military training as one of the most main and known generals in her brother's military. Unfortunately, her brother died, so she became queen. With an army of the best, 20,000 soldiers and 1,000 cavalry troops in West Africa, she advanced to conquer hundreds of thousands of miles of territory, even creating walls surrounding major cities in her kingdom. She still today is celebrated by the Hausa people with traditional songs such as Amina, daughter of Nakata, a woman as capable as a man. I like that. A woman as capable as a man to lead men to war. Of course, there's also a lot of folklore and stories about Queen Amina. Queen Nefertiti, queen number 2. Nefertiti, it is thought, is the daughter of a pharaoh of ancient Egypt's 18th dynasty. She was a queen, part of the kingdom of Kemet, in modern-day Egypt. Along with her husband Pharaoh Akhenaten, they remodeled the Egyptian religion by changing it from a polytheistic system by mainly worshiping the sun god Aten. They also changed the capital of the Egyptian empire to the city of Amarna. Nefertiti is most notably known for her beauty. The name Nefertiti means a beautiful woman has come. I find this very interesting. With the kings and the queens, they usually reigned independently. Now, she was married, as many of them were, but they reigned separately. The king had his kingdom, and if he was married, she wasn't considered a queen of a kingdom. He was. So with these ladies, I think it's fantastic and awesome that they ruled independently and they were actually queens without necessarily having a king. There's a temple in Egypt specifically created for Nefertiti as a gift from her husband, Akhenaten. HWT Binbun has an entrance from the west that expands into a main hallway with statues of Nefertiti. It also contains a sphinx about the size of 130 meters by 216 meters. What a way to honor her. Okay, now we've got our third queen. This is Tetu Bitol. She was born in the Simeon province of Ethiopia in 1851. She was born from the Salamic dynasty, the emperor house of Ethiopia, and was very, very proud of her lineage. During the Battle of Adwa, also known as an African victory against colonialism, Tetu Bitol not only fought in the front lines of the war, but also assembled women as fighters and nurses for wounded Ethiopian patriots. This historic event was the first crushing defeat of a European power by African forces during the colonial era. How rich is that? Here's a quote. I am a woman. I do not like war. However, I would rather die than accepting your deal. Don't ever think that we are not willing to sacrifice our comfort and die for our country. Giving one's life for the country is an honorable death. And that is from Tetu Batul, the Empress, Queen of Ethiopia. Next up, we have one of my favorite areas, the warriors of Africa. First warrior, Ya Asantewaa of the Ashanti Empire. She was born on October 17th, 1840. Ya, that's what we'll call her, was an intellectual politician who was the lead role in the Ashanti Empire War against British colonization. As a child, Ya was known to be very calm, generous, and modest. As a farmer, both her parents and her would normally cultivate food for a living around Banankra in a modern-day Ghana. But as the British came to colonize the Ashanti Empire, another side that no one knew she had came out. And there's a lot of us that have that. We're quiet, we're unassuming, but we do have another side. Ya created her own army and fought the British, eventually becoming the first ever woman to be a war leader of the Ashanti. Just in one war alone, the War of the Golden Stool, Ya led an army of 5,000 fending against thousands of British soldiers. I think that's pretty awesome. Next warrior. Menelik II. I love a man who's not afraid to wear pink. Menelik, also known as Saul Miriam, was a warrior king born on August 17, 1844, in the Simeon Shawa zone of Ethiopia. He is most notably known for defeating the Italians and forcing them to sign a treaty claiming Ethiopia's independence. Menelik achieved this success, defeating the Italians by assembling a massive army of 200,000 soldiers. Most of his army were armed with spears. Even as the Italians launched a biological attack against Ethiopian cattle, which led to the death of around 33% of the population, Menelik did not surrender. He forced the Italians to flee out of his kingdom, eventually winning the war at the Battle of Adwa. Our next warrior, she was something else. Nzinga, from the empire of Ngongo and Mataba, kingdom in modern-day Angola. She was born in 1583, and after her brother's death, her nephew was to be in charge. But once he died, she took control of Ngongo, which is now Angola. Now remember, Nzinga was also, after the brother passed, a queen, but she was also a very famous warrior. She was trained on the battlefield as a teenager, and learning how her father governed, she was more than ready to fight an ongoing war between the Mabundu and Portuguese people. Nzinga initiated a 30-year war, defeating the Portuguese multiple times, most notably in 1646 during the Battle of Combi, winning with an army of 8,000 people against an army of 30,000 Portuguese soldiers. Now, remember last time we talked about how the Portuguese were one of the first to actually come over to Africa on the western coast of Sierra Leone. That was the departure point for the transatlantic slave trade. So she fought back these Portuguese. Quite a queen, Queen Nzinga. Now let's talk about these wonderful empires that were built in Africa. First, we have the Egyptian Empire. The Egyptian Empire is known to be one of the first civilizations to ever exist on Earth. after the unification of northern and southern Egypt in 3100 BC. It would go on to thrive for about 30 centuries. The ancient Egyptians most notably discovered mathematical and astronomical abilities. This includes the discovery of variable stars, which started when an Egyptian astronomer discovered the star, Algol, changing brightness. Also, with their mathematical aptitude, they were able to perfectly align the pyramids to the cardinal directions to the extent of accuracy at 1/15 of 1 degree. Now, that's pretty accurate. Ramses II. He built a temple called Abu Simbel. He built it in a way in which sunlight entered the inner sanctum. Only on October 20th and February 20th, it is believed that Ramses was crowned as pharaoh. And these temples are just beautiful. The Kingdom of Zimbabwe. The Kingdom of Zimbabwe is located in southeastern Africa. It was a medieval empire controlled by the Shona and Karenga people as far back as 600 AD. This kingdom was built with detailed stone structures. I hope you can see those close enough, using techniques adopted from the previous kingdom. They thrived mainly off of trading other goods for gold, creating a successful export economy. At the capital of the Zimbabwe Empire, there was an estimated population of 18,000 people alone. The center of this kingdom, also the capital, was located in northern Zimbabwe. One of my favorites, the Axum Empire. I just marvel at the technology or the architecture back in this era. In modern-day Ethiopia and Eritrea, during 80 BCE, the Axumite Empire was created. It was a popular trading hub between the Roman and Indian empires. They further dominated the world economy by creating their own currency and trading agricultural products with other items all around the world. I like that. They created their own money. More notably, the Axiom people created their own language, their own alphabet called Ge'ez, that is still used today. Additionally, very large obelisks were created to praise the emperors and warriors of Axum. The kingdom of Axum flourished and reached its peak under the leadership of King Azana. Under him, the empire expanded rapidly, especially with the conquering of the Kush kingdom. He also ordered the building of many ancient churches all across Axum, especially in the northern Tigray Mountains. The kingdom of Kush was outstanding as well, folks. Okay, and there you have it for today. That's a little bit about our African kings, queens, warriors, and kingdoms. Next time, we're going to go further down that timeline and begin to look at the transatlantic slave trade. As always, in parting, I like to leave you with an African proverb. The proverb for today is, without knowledge, there is the darkest night. Without knowledge, there is the darkest night. I want to thank you all for joining me, Professor Reese, African American History. Have an awesome day. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Miss Lu and this session is Intermediate Chinese. So this semester we are going to learn about Chinese idioms and the stories behind it. Okay, so the story we're going to learn today and the idiom we're going to learn today is 掩耳盗铃. 掩耳盗铃. So our objective for today, students will know how to say the word 掩耳盗铃 and we'll also write it. And also the story behind the idiom. And the things you may need is your notebook and pencil because later on we are going to write the characters together. Okay, so I'll give you 10 seconds to grab a notebook and pencil if you don't have it with you. And let's get ready to learn. Before that, let's do a review. So if you still remember the idiom we learned last time, 胸有成竹. Okay, so which means have a very well thought plan before act. Together, 胸有成竹. 胸有成竹. Okay, so that was for last time, and today we will focus on 掩耳盗铃的故事. Like usual, we'll go over the story in Chinese, and then we are going to explain the story to make sure you understand it. Then we're going to write the characters together, and we'll learn how to use them in a sentence. Okay, 掩耳盗铃的故事。有个小偷跑到范氏家里，看见院子里有一口大钟，大钟很好看，小偷想把大钟搬走，可是大钟太重了，小偷搬不动，小偷想到一个办法，可以把大钟砸碎，把碎片一个个拿走。他拿了一个锤子，砸向大钟，大钟的声音非常响。小偷害怕别人听到声音，于是他把自己的耳朵塞住，这样就听不到响声了。当锤子砸向大钟时，大家听到了大钟的声音，一起把小偷抓住了。Okay, so 掩耳盗铃的故事。This is very fun story. So there was a thief who sneaked into the Fan family, who was very rich at that time, and he saw a giant bell in the yard, and the bell was very beautiful, was luxurious. So he wanted to steal the bell, but the bell was too giant and very heavy. He could not move it by himself. And then he thought a way. Why not just smash the bell into pieces? In that way, he can take the pieces away one by one. So he took a hammer and hit it to the bell, but the bell was very loud. So the thief was afraid that other people would hear the sound and get him, so he stuffed his ears, because in this way he could not hear the sound of the bell. However, when he hit the bell again, all other people, they heard the sound, and then they come together, arrested the thief all together. Okay, so this is a very funny story. And then 掩耳盗铃 is the idiom we concluded from the story. Let's say that word together. 掩耳盗铃，掩耳盗铃，掩耳盗铃. So basically, you will stuff your ear when you steal the bell. That's the character by character meaning. So today we usually use it if somebody is deceived like themselves. We'll call that person as 掩耳盗铃. Okay, so now I would like you to write the character, take notes together with me. Okay, 掩耳盗铃，掩耳. So you stuff your ear, 盗铃 still the bell. 掩耳盗铃，掩，横，竖钩，提，横，撇，捺，竖，横竖，横横 and then 竖弯钩，沿 ，OK， 耳，横，竖，竖，横横横。沿 means hide, and here it means like cover, stuff your ear, R, okay? 倒，点点，撇，横折，撇点，竖，横竖，哎，竖竖横。倒 means still, and then 铃 bell, 撇，横，横横，竖钩，撇捺，点，横折，点。Okay, stuff your ear, still the bell. So you're deceiving yourself, you're lying to yourself. Okay, 掩耳盗铃 together. 掩耳盗铃，掩耳盗铃。So now let's see some example how to use 掩耳盗铃. So first one, 一，做事要认真，不要掩耳盗铃。So when you are doing something, you should be careful and serious. Do not lie to yourself. Do not deceive yourself. Okay? 不要掩耳盗铃。二，他做的是掩耳盗铃的蠢事。So the thing he did is like 掩耳盗铃 deceiving himself. 掩耳盗铃是一种看上去很聪明，其实很笨的方法。掩耳盗铃 seemingly seems smart. You cover your ear, you cannot hear the sound, but other people can hear it. So don't lie to yourself, don't deceive yourself. Okay, so these are examples of how to use 掩耳盗铃。做事要认真，不要掩耳盗铃。他做的是掩耳盗铃的蠢事。掩耳盗铃是一种看上去很聪明，其实很笨的方法。Okay, so 掩耳盗铃 this is the idiom we learned today, and you have a 作业, so your homework for today, like usual. Please write down 掩耳盗铃 by yourselves. Write it 3 times by yourself on your notebook and try to create a sentence with it. See if you know how to use 掩耳盗铃 now. Okay? And this is Miss Lu. Thank you for listening. It's always been my pleasure having you in my class. I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Miss Lu, and thank you to all the classroom teachers today. They will all be back next Thursday with lessons again targeted for your 5th and 6th grade students. Tune in tomorrow, Friday, for the launch of our new real-world learning show for secondary students. Thank you all at home for joining us. Have a great day, and remember, continue learning throughout the day.
Kindergarten is great at Kansas City Public Schools.
I know they have really good teachers. I know this is a great school.
They teach them stuff that I thought my kids would never be able to know at the age of 5.
Since deciding to send our kiddos to a neighborhood school, we've become even more of a part of our community.
Now is the time to enroll your future kindergartner for the new school year. Visit enrollkc.org today.
The desire to create lives within each of us. From Grammy-winning producers and musicians, to NBA stars, to Navy admirals and Medal of Honor recipients, to internationally renowned artists and beloved local muralists, Paseo graduates have been creating their own success, their own history, their own legacy since 1926. Now it's your time. Create your future at Paseo Academy of Fine and Performing Arts. Learn more at enrollkc.org/Paseo.
I love Southeast because of the culture, the band program, and restorative justice.
I love Southeast because of the academics, sports, and students.
I love Southeast because of the people, the energy, and the advanced classes.
It's not alike. I love Southeast because the students here at Southeast are full of potential and they believe in achieving anything.
We are Southeast.
Southeast.
We stand shoulder to shoulder.
Join the Southeast family. Enroll today.
I am Lincoln Middle.
At Lincoln Middle School, students discover their talents and passions, where teachers plant the seeds of lifelong learning.
I am Lincoln Middle.
Where excellence is nurtured. Students develop the skills to be successful in school, career, and beyond.
Je suis Lincoln Middle.
Lincoln Middle is the public school where your child will thrive and grow. Open a world of possibilities. Apply today. Learn more at enrollkc.org/Lincoln Middle.